Yeah, what's good? I wanted to talk about the block game problem and in the context of Hytale, because that's coming out pretty soon here, and I've been thinking about it a lot. So, to be clear, before anything else, I have to make a few clarifications at the very beginning. This is not a fixed Hytale video, right? This is not that video because the game's not fucking out. No one has played it outside of a very small handful of people, and they haven't really said much that we didn't already know. Hytale, like they said, is very, very behind because of all this riot drama that's been going on. And so this isn't really a critique about Hytale itself, not just Hytale. This is more about like all block games. Another thing that I want to note is that I'm not really too concerned about the adventure mode that's coming to Hytale. This thing. I don't really care about this. And I'm not gonna really talk about it. Adventure mode, as they've described it, is going to be a type of open story mode. And that's not really why I played these types of games. Even in Vintage Story, I didn't really do the story. I don't really care about the story. The story is the least interesting part to me. And so I'm not going to talk about it. And even when this comes out, I'm probably not going to play it. That's not my concern. The thing that has me concerned and that had me like really spark up and say to myself, I have to make this fucking video, is this clip that I saw from one of my one of the creators I watch that got me into Minecraft modding. This is Cap and Joe. I love Cap and Joe. Okay, this guy taught me everything I know about Java, basically. Well, not everything, but he taught me a lot about Java and how to mod Minecraft. And he's going to be talking about Hytale when that comes up. His tutorials are very valuable, very useful tutorials. I recommend them. But he said something in this video talking about Hytale's modding situation. And he said something to the effect of, "We're going to see Create poured over very quickly." Create is a Minecraft mod. I don't know how to draw a cogwheel. All right, that's a cogwheel. Okay, cogwheel. That's what that is. He said Create is coming over pretty soon here, and it's going to be one of the first things people try to port over. Um, this bothered me, the idea of porting. Even though like Create, it's difficult for Create in particular because Create is technically the best mod that any of these games have ever produced. That links into the philosophy of a block game, but we'll get to that later. He said that this thing is going to be ported, most likely. It was just an offhanded comment, but it bothered me a lot because instead of coming up with a new solution, he expected people to just take what was previously Minecraft and move it over to Minecraft 2. And he's not the only person who's done this. I've been seeing this everywhere. Like, as I speak right now, there is a Calamity remake coming to Hytale right now. And if you don't know what Calamity is a mod for Terraria, which is a 2D it's a 2D overhaul mod that basically just adds a bunch of bosses to Terraria. It extends the horizontal progression by a lot. Not so much the vertical progression, but I guess people can argue with that. The real vertical progression comes from Fargo's, I think, but that's besides the point. This has been going on. This isn't just like a Hytale thing. It's not like it happened here in Minecraft as well. People porting Terraria, in particular this Terraria mod, and it just kind of like stacks onto this thing of like, yeah, we're just moving things over. And once again, I have to I have to be more or less clear because Hytale is a very sensitive subject for people because of its tumultuous history. I'm trying to be careful here. It's okay that you want to make this stuff, right? Nothing ever gets made if you don't give a fuck about it, right? This is cool to make. This is all super fucking cool. It's going to be super fun. And if you want to do it, if you want to put your unpaid labor and your unpaid efforts into this, then I think that's cool, right? I just think that what's cooler is doing something that's interesting. I'm concerned that we're falling back into the old sins that created this. I don't want to call it stagnant, but this pool of water that we've been swimming in ever since Create came out. And even before Create, we've had this issue where we've been modding and we've been making more or less the same mods over and over and over again. There seems to be no, what's a nice way to say this? There's no vision. And I hate to see it. I want to like spark a little bit of an imagination, even if it's just for like one person, about what modding any of these games, what designing a block game could actually be. And I find that this is woefully inadequate. Well, except for Create, but once again, we'll get to Create later. And I don't blame anybody for thinking this way. We're kind of wired to think that every game is a competitor to another game. Um, and this is something that we're going to see a lot, especially after Hytale comes out. Was it in January? There's really no beating this. I remember for Warframe and what was the other game? Destiny 2 was one of them, but the other game was a failed It was this failed game from fucking EA. Which one was it? Oh yeah. I remember when these three games were in the public consciousness in the MMO sphere, and they were battling it out, and everyone was like, "Your game is dog shit. My game's better," and it became an entire fucking war. You see this across properties because players are like this, gamers are like this. I don't blame anybody for being like this. It's a combination of marketing and conditioning that's been happening to us over the past 15, 20 years by this point. There's no avoiding the comparisons, but I want to shine some light on that. You don't have to be like Minecraft to do a block game. A block game is an independent thing. To be a block game, the only thing you really fucking need are blocks, or in this case, voxels. I'm not going to get too technical about what these are because I'm talking about game design for this video, but like the artistic creative part of game design, less the technical part of game design. I want to talk about this entire genre of block game or voxel game more broadly, and like really drill down into what makes this interesting and what can be done with this beyond the fucking screens of Minecraft or Hytale. But of course, this video can be addressed purely to the Hytale modding community because Minecraft modding community, that shit's cooked. All right, that shit's over with. But Hytale has a bright future ahead because there's nothing here. It's a blank canvas. There's a lot of room to do anything you fucking want. There's no standard. There's no fucking API. There's no 100% thing that everyone has to play into yet. It's wide open. We can do anything we fucking want. We can do anything we want afterwards as well, but I'm just pointing out, like, there's a lot of potential here. All right, for this talk, I'm going to range from a variety of different experiences, and I don't know if you've played them all, but I'm going to act like you have for this talk, okay? First is Minecraft, naturally. The next game I want to bring up is Cube World, Vintage Story. I don't know why I said next. It's not like I'm doing this in order. These are just the games I'm going to be using as reference when I'm giving this talk here. Valorant, of course, Hytale. And lastly, one that you might not have heard of called Lay of the Land. It's an indie game. I don't even think it's out yet, but it's very interesting. And we're going to talk about how it's designed a few things when we're talking about this block game dilemma. Okay? So the number one quote I want to pull out of my ass here that has no relevance to anything at all is that all games end and block games do not. The entire draw of a block game, of a voxel game, is that they are infinite. They do not have an end. Well, Valorant has an end, but that's because they're constrained. They're constrained by their infinite worlds. Thanks, Rust. Thanks, Rust. All these games are infinite, and the entire when you have procedural generation, it just kind of goes. It's just a natural synthesis that this is unending. That this does not fucking stop. That this is infinite in some way. And to the genre's credit, all block games are infinite in one way or another. They have either very large land masses that are impractical to cross. For example, Minecraft. Even this isn't like technically infinite because it's impossible for something to be technically infinite. I'm pretty sure it is at 13 million blocks before you get to the far lands, right? After 13 million blocks, you're pretty much at the end of Minecraft before it starts to crash your fucking computer. All these games are like that because the fucking math that goes into voxels and like calculating. I'm not getting into the technicals. The point is that all games are infinite. All these block games are infinite, and that means we're already facing our first dilemma. How do you design for infinity? There's a few places we can draw inspiration for how to do this. The first I want to bring up is a strange synergy I've seen between Minecraft's SMP servers and MMORPGs. So basically, if you don't know, an SMP server is basically a bunch of YouTubers that play out a scenario in Minecraft. They have a server and they're all on there together. And the idea is that they make storylines or they make interesting gameplay, interesting content together on a multiplayer server. I don't know what the S is for in SMP, but this is undoubtedly for multiplayer. And the way these stories play out, the way that SMPs typically work, is they work like the stories that you hear about MMO guilds, right? Whenever you think about Golrag the dress setter and the drama that happened when Golrag the dress setter was out here with his big fucking club, and he actually talked to another guild member's wife, and there was huge fucking drama, and then they failed to raid, and somebody fucking rolled on a piece of gear they weren't supposed to fucking get. And then they left the fucking guild and fled with the gear, and then Golrag and his fucking the wife they stole from some other guy fucking broke up. Like this drama, this tension, and this storytelling that happens naturally from MMO guilds is something that happens a lot in SMP. MMOs are inherently limited, unlike block games. They're designed to be limited. However, they keep churning out content. Right? They keep churning this shit out. It's a full-time job, and they charge you a subscription because they're churning this shit out. Every couple of months, there's more content to come out just for you. It's designed infinitely, despite it not being an infinite game. I think this parallel illustrates something about the methodology in which players approach these games, in multiplayer in particular. However, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is really just a single player problem, and it can be extrapolated out into multiplayer. I want to like frame this under the guise of an MMO guild in particular, because what happens when you go single player MMO? Well, it kind of does turn into a block game. Um, it turns into a theme park. The way that you play a theme park MMO is the way that you play a block game in single player. And so how you design for a fucking block game, how you design for infinity. Do you feed it content and endlessly, like an endless content mill? But that would cost money and it's impractical to do. So how do you do it? Well, how do they do it? How do they do it in MMOs? How do you do it in a theme park MMO? Rather than churning out new content all the time, you just repeat it. You just repeat the content. You repeat dungeons. You repeat the grind for new weapons. Hell, sometimes you even repeat story. The idea is that to design for infinity, you necessarily have to be infinite. And this is like common sense for anybody that's played Minecraft. What do you think what do you think the features are, right? Whenever you have to do a trial chamber, it's just a huge fucking copper complex of blocks that span out, and you're over here like killing enemies and getting loot. And players have even commonly requested we should be able to repeat the same trial chamber instead of having to go out and get new trial chambers. And they're probably using some excuse like, oh, because we're on servers and servers, they have a bunch of fucking fiends on them, and Gorlak the Destroyer would fuck my wife while he does a trial chamber. I'm not getting into that. The point is that repeating content, churning out the same content over and over again in different varieties, is the spice of life when it comes to these games, right? Once you've seen one dungeon, you've probably seen all the dungeons, because it's not feasible to do the theme park thing of charging a player $12 in a block game in order to make new content over and over again. So to design for infinity, we have to repeat content. The issue is this is stale, and this gets boring really fucking quick. Any Minecraft player will tell you. And so they have to use mods, right? I don't know how that turned to cursive. I just didn't lift my pen. It's actually kind of cool now they did that. I don't know if I can do that again. I'm not going to try. It's embarrassing. So mods are crucial to pretty much all of these games except for Valorant because it's written in Rust. Nobody knows how to fucking write Rust. Thanks, Valorant. Cube Worlds, this was abandoned, but we're not even going to be talking about like the new version of Cube World. We're going to be mainly talking about Alpha. I'll get there in a second. I say in a second. It's going to be a while. We'll get there later. And Lay of the Land isn't it's not out. Neither is Hytale. But you can already tell, Hytale at least is going to be using a heavy reliance on mods, and it's built into their fucking design. Lay of the Land, I'm not too sure. I'm not sure what the creator's doing in this game. His communication hasn't always been like, there's not a lot of communication for that game. Anyway, the issue with designing for infinity is this gets stale, and so you have to use mods. But we want to design the game in a way where we don't necessarily have to rely on a community. The game by itself should be fun. And so how do you entice, how do you spice this up? How do you make this enticing? How do you not fall into this development black hole? And I think it's all, how do I explain this? It's doable. It's definitely doable, but you need very precise architecture. Everything has to link together perfectly. And unfortunately, this is very difficult to do, especially from the onset for games that are in early access. Every single last one of these games is in early access in one way or another, or was in early access. Minecraft eventually released. But when you're first starting with your game, you don't have the chops to lay down such a solid foundation. You don't know what the fuck you want. Look at Hytale's textures, for example. Hytale has 32x and 64x textures at the same time, different resolution textures. It is basically Mixels by a different name. And they can't really do anything about it. It's set in stone. A trailer that was shown 7 years ago kind of doomed this. And so they kind of have to like make it work for them now. Is a part of the style now, even though this is flawed. This is inherently flawed. By any artist can tell you this is probably a bad idea to do. They can't change it anymore, and that's because the foundation was laid so long ago when they probably knew less. It just goes to show you that doing game architecture when your game is in early access is actually really fucking difficult, because you can't design the game the way that players want until you reveal the game and let them play it. But if you reveal the game and let them play it, there's a risk that if you change anything, they're gonna get really mad at you. Minecraft, once again, big example of this. These guys, like players in Minecraft, get fucking mad. But Mojang recently fucking changed the version numbers, for example. We're never getting 1.22 anymore. That's not happening. Instead, we're getting 26.1, because that's the year and that's the game drop. And players are fucking furious. You can't win. There's no winning. So without flawless architecture, you can't really create such a system that that you can design for infinity. It's not possible to do. It's always going to have to be done in post. Unfortunately, yeah, I feel confident in saying that it's always going to be done in post. You're never going to be able to do it on your first try. You're not going to be able to land it. You're not going to be able to architect the game in such a way in which it's going to be perfect. It's always going to be in post. And sometimes that post can take the form of a sequel, right? It can be the second game. But it would have to be by the exact same devs, and that's never the case because we work in this industry. You get churned. You get churned like fucking crazy. You get slapped around and thrown around to studio, contracting agency to contracting agency. It's a bloodbath out there. So this is unlikely to happen, and that it just goes to show you that you really got to focus on the post part rather than the sequel part. A good example of this type of philosophy, how to design for endless gameplay, is Starfield. I've talked about Starfield before. This game is a fucking mess, but it was designed to be infinite because Bethesda saw Skyrim and they saw players playing that for 10 plus years. People are still playing. I still fucking play. I still play Skyrim. The modding community is a large reason as to why, but the game itself has certain elements, I'm about to get to it here in a second, that make me want to come back and keep playing, to keep trying, to keep attempting. And this is how we're going to design for infinity. Starfield tried it and fucking failed. And because it's Bethesda, they don't have a post phase. Instead, they tried to release DLC and they address none of the problems of the base game. And so it never got fixed. Starfield is pretty much dead. And even if they come out with this new update in the future, I hear they're revealing starships that you can like fly in or something. No Man's Sky already did it. I don't know what the purpose of Bethesda trying is, but go ahead. Go ahead. Try your best. And this is an experienced studio, man. With experienced studio with a lot of fucking funding, even they failed. That just goes to show you how difficult it is to design for Infinity. If anybody could do it, everyone would do it because it's a lot of money to be made. Making a player play the same exact fucking game forever, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, especially with microtransactions. I have to commend Hytale for this. They're doing a cosmetic shop, and they're obviously going to ask for money to do the cosmetic shop. I'm not going to use a cosmetic shop. I'm probably going to use some like third-party plugin, like Figura or something, and that's how I'm going to get my skins. Or I'm just going to play in single player, and I'm not really going to give a fuck about how my player looks because I have armor on. But everyone wants to do this, and it's really fucking difficult to do. I'm not going to pretend like I have a magic bullet, but I think I have a few insights that are interesting. There's also something to be said about starting a new game versus playing in the same game forever. In Minecraft, there's this concept of a forever world, right? Why did I write the F like that? In a forever world, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to literally play on this exact same world through the updates and just watch the world evolve, and it becomes a type of chronicle, becomes a type of story exploring your time playing this game. I'm sure a lot of people are going to attempt doing this. However, a forever world requires a very certain type of player, requires a very intrinsically motivated player, somebody who finds motivations from themselves. They don't require some type of external stimulus. Unfortunately, I think that the majority of players are extrinsic, which means that they require some type of stimulus or some type of impetus, some type of incentive to do whatever the fuck that is they're supposed to do. I find that most players, even in fucking Skyrim, they just create a new save. And that's just the nature of infinite design, is that it's probably a fool's errand to believe that you have to design infinitely. To believe that you have to design all 13 million blocks. We'll get to that later as well, though. I think that you won't be able to pull enough content out of this black hole without going bankrupt to feed an extrinsic player who plays in the exact same world forever. That's probably not going to happen. Now, here's what I would draw from Skyrim, from this sponge, but here's what I would bring out of it. It's a key word: emergent. Basically, the systems are loosely coupled together rather than being tight and wound like that architectural thing right here, this perfect game architecture. Instead of doing that, the systems are coupled. We have this system, and we have this system, and we have this system, and they can pull on their strings however the fuck they please, and it creates different results every single time they do. This is what inherently creates emergent gameplay. You can't design. Let me correct that. You can design for emergent gameplay, but you cannot hard line it. You can't craft emergent gameplay. To craft something emergent, you have to take your foot off the gas. You have to take your foot off the gas. You can't put your pedal to the fucking metal. You cannot enforce control on emergent gameplay because that would inherently get rid of the emergent part. Emergent means there's going to be shit that's outside of your control. And that's what makes all of these games and the potential for a block game in general for a voxel game in general. That's what makes the potential for all these games so fucking huge, because in a world that is infinite, the emergent properties are also likewise infinite. And yet, almost none of these games fulfill that promise. None of these games touch on that emergent part, except for Vintage Story, and we'll get there. You see, we're going to get into a lot of shit. Okay, I'm not just fucking meandering here. Okay, I do have shit to say, but I have to set up so much like pre knowledge. I have to talk so fucking much about the shit before I can actually get to the design part. Oh, it's not gonna make sense. So remember, emergent, a bunch of loose couplings that create complex results and complex outcomes. Every system is just a fucking container, and they push and pull on each other to create unique situations. The next thing I want to talk about is agency. That's another thing from Skyrim. So agency is the player's ability to enact their will upon a game. Why I have three of those? What's good? So in this case, in the context of emergent gameplay, that means it's not just the systems moving and pushing and pulling against each other. It's the player taking their hand and moving a container or pushing a container with a fucking stick to see how it moves. Now, an issue with agency is that players say they want more of it, and developers say it's difficult to give you more without breaking the fucking game. And the developers are right. You can't. Once I say this in every fucking video about design, okay? Don't listen to your players. All right? Feel your players, feel what they're saying, but never listen to them. Never listen to exactly what these motherfuckers are saying. Otherwise, your game will be dog shit. Players want to enact their will upon everything freely. But if you want that, you would enable cheats. That's what that is, cheats. So always have to keep in mind, when you give a player agency, the system, especially in emergent systems, have to be able to push back. They have to be able to beat the shit out of your player, okay? There has to be some type of rubber banding that happens when your player tries to exert too much will. Otherwise, it gets boring. Remember, friction is love. Friction is good. Friction is great. Players can bitch and moan all they want. Friction is a good thing. We do want some amount of friction, all right? It's the spice of life. I did the cursive thing. How did I do that? Oh, Jesus. You have to give them some amount of bite back, right? Players' fun comes from breaking and circumventing obstacles, right? When they try to enact their will and they get pushback, they don't just run away forever. They come back and they try to push it again. They try to push it from a different angle. Players enjoy breaking systems. It's their favorite thing to fucking do. That's why glitch hunting is such a big thing. Every kid in the 90s had some kind of cheat book telling them about all the fucking glitches they could do in Halo 3 and how to get outside the map. It's a huge draw for players, and we have to respect that. And not just respect that, we have to feed into it. We have to anticipate it and feed it. So now we have emergent gameplay, player agency. Is this enough? Almost. There's one more thing that we can get from Skyrim that I think carries over well to block games. And I'll tie all these things up after this, I think. And the last thing is progression direction, right? Whenever we're talking about this, usually we're talking about vertical and horizontal progression. In short, this is like tiers of material. Think about in Minecraft, stone, iron, whatever the fuck. And horizontal progression, in the case of Skyrim, would be the things that you can do on the exact same power level anywhere in the world. You don't have to get any more powerful, you just have to go there. This is the horizontal progression, I think. And of these games, once again, Vintage Story is the only one that has that type of horizontal progression. Minecraft has tried it recently. They just added copper tools, which are a side grade from iron, a little bit above stone. But it's so easy to get iron still that there's no reason to use copper. It falls to the exact same issue that stone and wood tools have. You only use it until you can get iron. And then you have iron until you can find diamond, because diamond is rare. And you're going to have iron for a long time as a result. Usually. If you know what you're doing, you know exactly what Y level to get to, then it's a different story. But when you have horizontal progression, this can go as far as you want to, provided that you, the developer, are willing to support it. You can stretch this out in post literally forever and just never finish the game. Never add a final tier. Minecraft did that. They didn't have netherite until just recently. I say just recently. I don't know when the nether update came out. It's been a while, actually. It felt like yesterday. But you can stretch this out for a very long time. And my beloved Vintage Story does exactly this. It stretches out its horizontal progression everywhere from getting clay to making your first pickaxe. It stretches this thing out. It's like, it's a bit difficult to just illustrate how long that progression is. But there's nothing going up or down about this. There's nothing vertical about this progression. After you get the pickaxe, then yeah, now we're climbing. Until then, everything's very horizontal. The issue with doing things this way, though, and just having like a flat progression curve is that things get very boring very quickly. I know a lot of people that drifted off of Vintage Story. I don't know the logo for Vintage Story, a clock on a tree, because this took forever. They couldn't mine anything. It took forever to dig. It took forever to craft their forever home and their special castle. These things were very difficult to fucking do, and they're going to continue to be difficult to do unless you get to a certain tier. Fuck, lighten things up, for example. Having a light, like a fucking a torch that goes out after a certain amount of time, this is stressful. Monsters spawn in your base and shit, and you can't really do anything until you get a lantern. But to get a lantern, you need an anvil because you have to fucking flatten plates, and that requires an anvil to do. This is a very long process, and it can drop a lot of players off at any point along this fucking curve. And it's upsetting if you get to the very end of this, and then it starts to go up, and you're like, oh, wait, so what was all this for then? And we'll get to that as well. This thing of like leaving shit behind. Like I made this anvil, and now what do I do with it when I'm moving up to the next anvil? We'll get to that. Another issue with horizontal progression. Actually, no, that's not a big deal. I'll leave that off for now. So this is our design. This is our infinite design recipe: emergent, agency, progression, direction, and it's finding the balance between these three that allow for infinite fun, infinite replayability, and potentially infinite money. Block games do not end, one way or another. Okay, well, let's talk about some of the pitfalls of block games and really drill down into the issues that I've noticed, no matter what the block game is, and how we avoid it. Well, not Cube World because you can't fucking build, and not Valorant because once again you can't fucking build. The Voxel games for some reason have an issue with building. But so let's say that you spend I don't know 40 minutes building up this fucking watchtower, right? And maybe you spent a lot of time like pre-planning for the watchtower. You're collectively spending about 2 hours working on this one watchtower. And maybe you'll be tempted to make this your base. And you say to yourself, oh, don't worry, I want to make more of them later. I want to make this one. I want to make this one. You tell yourself that. But then across your entire 2-week playthrough, you spend it all right here in this fucking tower. Whenever you go on an adventure, you come back to this tower. Whenever you install a mod with a waypoint teleportability, you come back to this fucking tower. When you're setting up your dimensional portals with some type of exploitable mechanic like ice highways across some lava pits or something, guess where this portal leads? Yes, back to your fucking tower. You're always coming back to the tower. You have one base in the world, 13 million blocks, and you spend all of that time in the same 5K radius. Players will do this. You do this. I do this. We all do this. And I'll get to like how to fix this later. But this is a very common problem. We have this entire system that has literally infinite generation. Well, not literally, but it has infinite generation, and we don't use it. We're trying to design for infinity, but the player does not leave their small little spawn point. They don't leave this area. We have all this space outside of it. I don't know why I was scared to draw for a second there. Fuck the canvas. We have all the space outside of this one little waypoint, and players don't fucking leave it. So why is the world infinite? What is the point of this? The world might as well have been like 5,000 blocks instead. None of these games, except for Vintage Story, has a fix for this problem. Minecraft kind of has a quirk about it. The others not so much. Even if players do build alternate bases that are far away, they're never on this scale. They're always going to be like lesser outposts. That's usually what they'll call them too, right? These are just outposts. The real base with all your fucking stuff, all your equipment, all your gear, it's all here. It's all at home. Players don't create home too. And it's because we never incentivize them to. We never incentivize them to actually engage with the fact that this world is infinite. And these outposts, like, what was the point of an outpost? Well, an outpost is here to give you supplies so you can push further into the infinite generation. But they don't have any other purpose, do they? Like, maybe they're useful for making a story, right? SMP makes a story. But ultimately, remember that we play in single player, these endless games, we play them like theme parks. So it doesn't really make sense to have, in these types of games, something that the player inherently has to intrinsically do. It doesn't make sense. It's a conflict. It's a conflict of interest here. And don't forget all the systems that are attached to creating a home, right? There's crops, there's farms. You have your entire food supply here. You don't want to leave that behind. We are talking about your fucking storage, your boxes, your chests with all your rare equipment. And you always have like multiple of these, right? You never just have one. You can never just have one system. You always have to have tens, maybe hundreds of fucking storage chests, and they're all categorized carefully for each material type. And with Minecraft in particular, we have like redstone, right? I don't know how to draw redstone, but we have all these switches and all these like advanced mechanics that require sometimes hundreds of components, gates and switches to build. And what are you going to do? Break it all down and move it somewhere else? No, of course not. This is all staying there. And if anything, you're just going to recreate it in the second place. So this is all flawed. All this is flawed. There's nothing about the emergent gameplay here. The progression is stagnant. You're not really doing anything. You're building this fucking house. It's all intrinsic with no extrinsic variables. Like what's to be done? We have this game of infinite blocks, infinite voxels, in a world that is made up of cubes that you can build and destroy. In all of these fucking games, you can build, well, not all of them. Well, yeah, in all of them. All of them you can build and destroy in one way or another. You can craft the world. You can't build in Cube World, though. You can build in Valorant. You can destroy it. And we don't use it. We don't use this entire fucking paradigm. Why is the game made up of fucking cubes if you're not going to use the main part of fucking cubes? The building and destroying part. Instead, everyone wants to be like an RPG mod pack or whatever the fucking. Actually, yeah, let's talk about that. We spend all of our time in menus instead of building and destroying. What makes this style unique? The only exception to this is Vintage Story. So how do you fight this? How do you fight this allegation that Hytale is basically just a Minecraft RPG mod pack? Well, maybe lean into it. That feels like what Hytale is doing. This is why I'm not going to play the adventure mode. It feels like Hytale. It wants to be an RPG pack. It wants to be the RPG mod pack. So they want to have dungeons of every biome. They want to have mini games, and those can take many forms, not just the high pixel mini games, but like collect 10 orbs to upgrade your weapon, like those types of mini games. They want to have a lot of bosses. Do you feel the theme park? Do you feel the MMO theme park here? They just want to churn out the content, the black hole of content. This is the plan, it seems like. And I don't like it, but it's what they're doing. They want to have Terraria-like progression. And maybe that's why there's people that are making fucking Terraria mods in Hytale already, because they feel the progression. They feel the design signature of these guys. They want to have an emphasis on adventure, discovery, exploration, and like micro game loops. A micro game loop, for example, would be I need food because my health is low, right? I have low health. I need food to restore my low health. And so I have to go kill something or find something or grow something to get my health back. That's a micro game loop. There's no long-term planning. It's just like a really small thing that you're doing. And lastly, they have an emphasis on a type of ARPG pace. Not mechanics in particular, but an ARPG game pace. And you can see this from the gameplay for Hytale. So you can lean in. You can lean into the RPG allegations and just say, yeah, it is a mod pack. It's just a mod pack of Minecraft. And I think their developers even say this. We're not seeking to be Minecraft 2. That wasn't the goal. It's not the goal. We never want to be that. And that's fine. And this is fine. I'm still going to play it. I'm going to mod it. This is fine. It's fine. I'm happy it exists. But if you want to transcend Minecraft, to innovate and bring it all to a new dimension, this is where we're going to see Vintage Story a lot, I think. We have to wipe the slate clean. We have to try something else, okay? So let's talk about evolving the block game formula. And remember, we're going to be heavily leaning on these three things here: emergent gameplay, agency, player will, and progression, tuned for vertical and horizontal. So how do you do this? How do we do this? Number one, use the fucking blocks. We have a block game, an infinite block game. Please use the fucking blocks of the fucking block game. Are you kidding me? Why are we messing around in menus? Why are we messing around with our fucking inventory? Why do we have magic crafting machines? What the? Like, use the blocks. We have blocks in the fucking block game. Everything needs to be tactile. Like, holy shit. For example, the Nether portal is the only example in Minecraft that I can think of off the top of my head where we have a structure built of blocks that has a function. This is crazy. And we don't see this anywhere else. Well, except for like the end portal frame, right? But it's pretty much the exact same formula. It's just a fucking ring of blocks. You don't even get to build this one. Why don't you get to build it? Remember, the paradigm of these fucking games is to build and destroy. We have a fucking block game. Please use the fucking blocks. I mean, this is such a cool thing, and we never fucking see it again. And the only game that I have on this fucking list here that actually engages with the block part of the fucking block game is Vintage Story. You're building all kinds, everything in Vintage Story is a type of multi-block. Every single fucking thing is a multi-block. Whether it be your fucking furnace, whether it be your charcoal pit, whether it be the house you have over your head, the cellar you store your food in, everything is a multi-block. Vintage Story is always measuring the blocks you have around you and the rooms and things you are creating, the structures you are creating, and how they work. It's always measuring that. And that makes Vintage Story the natural evolution of this principle. Use the fucking blocks. Vintage Story uses the blocks. All right? That's +1 for Vintage Story. Already. No other fucking game is doing it. I'm going to be glazing Vintage Story a lot here, okay? Like, even in fucking Hytale, in Hytale, they have, like, a portal, and there's, like, a platform. But this is an item. This is an item that you put down on the fucking ground. And we don't know what it does yet, but it's an item that you put down. And the portal just fucking spawns where you put the item. This is 1 block usage. Vintage Story, these motherfuckers would have had me using 20 blocks to build this thing. Okay? This is really fucked. This is really annoying. This should not just be a 1 block thing. And like they have a crystal, right? To fuel the portal. In order to fuel the portal, you have to use a special crystal. And it's an inventory item. Like what? This is an inventory item. This is in your fucking GUI. Why? Your GUI is the least interesting thing about your fucking block game. And yet this is one of those inventory items. It's one of those GUI items. It might as well not fucking exist. It could be a fucking square. It could be a black and white square for all we care. It would do the exact same fucking thing. There's nothing unique or interesting about that. What would be more interesting is like a consumable block. Imagine like an Eye of Sauron on a tower, and every time you try to open the fucking portal, it eats up the block. Like the block disintegrates or something. Like now you have a fuel. Now you have a very particular block that you either have to find in the world by mining, you have to dig down to the center of the fucking earth, or maybe you have to fucking craft it. There's lots of different ways to make this interesting and like actually engage with the medium of using a fucking block. Use the blocks. What are we scared of here? Like this is perfectly fucking viable. There's this mod in Minecraft called Mystical Agriculture, I think. Mystical Agriculture. And they have these rituals that you have to do where you have this center block where your seed go on, and then you have pedestals that sit around the block in a circle. But this is still 8 blocks. This still isn't like the Vintage Story 20 blocks. This is close, but why is each pedestal only 1 block? Like it's literally an item called the pedestal block. Why? Why is it just one thing? This should be a multi-block. Everything should be a multi-block. Each pedestal should be like I keep bringing up the Eye of Sauron thing, but that's really the most interesting shape I have at the moment. And then you put the items right here into the center of the multi-block. Or maybe it's like a 4-pronged thing. You put the block here. Like, is this not interesting? I think it's interesting. And most importantly, it's using the fucking blocks. It's actually engaging with the medium of a fucking voxel game, of a block game. We have blocks. Please use blocks. And naturally, the elephant in the room, the best mod of all time, all right? King Kunta. I don't care if you don't understand Create. I don't care if you don't get it. I don't care if you don't get rotational force. Create is the best Minecraft mod. No, is the best mod to come out of any of these fucking games. It is so good that even Vintage Story is using Create's gears and rotational force for the mechanisms. This is just a natural evolution of what we should be doing. If you don't know, if you haven't played Create, Create is a mod in which everything runs off of a series of gears and pulleys and belts. Belts are basically pulleys. But these things spin through windmills, sometimes water wheels. And the most important part about Create is that all of these different things are individual blocks. They're individual structures that you have to place and link together using these cogs, shafts that connect the cogs together, wheels, belts, and pulleys. Everything is interconnected. It's all one big mega block. It's all one contraption. You build everything you build and create is like a Lego block. Each piece is individual and they all have their own particular purpose. Vintage Story has the exact same system in their mechanism system, but like you kind of have to have like a bunch of things in order to do it, like animal fat for some reason, like what was it, pine tar? I don't know what the fuck it was. Resin? You need strange materials in Vintage Story because it's a hardcore survival game. That's their weakness. But Create is the natural evolution of the block game. It's a natural link of the block game. It's even better than Redstone is. It's even better than Redstone because Redstone is electricity. You can't see the electricity flowing outside of like the Redstone lighting up. And Redstone was already really fucking good. People make insane shit with Redstone because it's so open-ended, because it's so emergent. Remember, loosely coupled systems that come together to create complex outputs. Create is literally that, is the embodiment of that. This type of system is fantastic, but We shouldn't just copy create. We should come up with our own solutions. We have not explored how to manipulate 3D space inside of a block game anywhere near enough. Nobody has copied create besides Vintage Story, and they haven't done it well enough to really capitalize on the promise that create has here. Even create hasn't fucking capitalized on it. I hear they're doing refined storage now or applied energistics. They just took those mods over. But this is the right philosophy. This is the right mindset. This is what we want, right? This is using the fucking blocks. This is using the block aspects of our block game. Like, holy shit. I can't believe it took this long. I would also like to invoke one of my favorite YouTubers, White Light here. Okay. White Light has a lot of very interesting ideas, and I appreciate his insight a lot. But we have a game where we have monsters, right? We have a game where we have like monsters like brains, and for some reason, the best we can do with them is allow them to run after us and hit us when we're not paying attention. Monsters are a nuisance. Enemies are a nuisance rather than a threat. White Light doesn't bring this up. He doesn't really lean into this. He leans more into the villager aspect. I don't really care about the villager aspect and turn this into Dwarf Fortress. I think that's a bit misguided. However, this idea of it's a very old survival Minecraft mindset. Let's say you build a castle and you have a moat, and you have a fucking bridge, you have a fucking huge fucking door, and you have like firing posts right here where people can fucking stand and fire anybody who tries to come in. Why do people build like this in old Minecraft? Well, it's because the monsters back then were seen as an actual threat that you had to prepare for. There's been a lot of discussion about this recently, but the creeper is a design that would not exist in modern Mojang's design book. You can't do this. However, the creeper is the exact antithesis. I'm sorry, it is an exact. It's a perfect match. It's a perfect connection for this principle of using the fucking blocks because it fulfills what you've been doing. You've been building. And what has the creeper been doing? You've been building. The creeper destroys. It's perfect. If the monsters could break down the door, if they could break the walls, if they could jump over each other to get in, maybe not fly, but like if they could like World War Z climb over each other to get in. Well, now you have an incentive to defend your base. And you build like this. You use the fucking blocks to defend your base. Instead of just going around with the fucking sword in hand, you would actually be using the game itself and the environment itself and the medium itself to defend yourself. But Mojang stepped away from this philosophy. Even my beloved Vintage Story does not fucking do this. The monsters in Vintage Story are very flawed. The combat system is very weak. Vintage Story has a terrible combat. I'll just say it out front. Vintage Story's combat is easily the weakest of the games here. It's worse than Minecraft's, by a long shot. I mean, not by a long shot, that's a bit mean. But Vintage Story does not have good combat. All right, the combat is terrible. The monsters are terrible. We'll talk about that later. I have that as a note later. But this concept of using the environment as part of your survival is very important, and we should be engaging with this. Because once again, it is using the medium, it is using the fucking blocks. You have a block game, please use the fucking blocks. Okay? We have a 3D space here. Please use the 3D space. All right, number 2. Menus suck ass. This is written down in Jeb's design book for the design of Minecraft. I like how earlier I said I wasn't going to be talking about much Minecraft, but here I am talking about Minecraft a lot. Because it's what everyone knows. It's written down in Jeb's design book that he tried his best to make the team use less huts. And that was a good philosophy, even though he utterly fucking failed. The issue is that even if it's a good philosophy, it's very difficult to execute on. The crafting grid, it's in everything. And when it's not when it's not a fucking crafting grid, it's just a list. And I can't help but feel like this is very fucking boring. So how do we use the fucking blocks, but also have a crafting system that doesn't have me tinkering around in a million different menus? Well, someone's tried. Notice the only game in this thing I haven't fucking mentioned yet, Lay of the Land. Someone's tried, and it's very interesting the way they try to do this. Here's what they tried to do. In their voxel game, in Lay of the Land, they made you spit out the items into the physical world onto a crafting table, and then you can use those items that you spit out into the world to craft with. This is fantastic. I think the idea is that within a proximity of the workbench, you can craft within the proximity. However, this is really no different than having like a chest and then putting it down next to your workbench. We've seen mods like this. Terraria does this. One of the most popular mods in Terraria is called Magic Storage, where you have a digital storage station that's accessible from anywhere. I'm sorry, all your storage is in one place, so you can craft just from this connected storage instead of having to root through a bunch of different chests. It's interesting and it's physical. and it's using the fucking blocks, and I like it. But I feel like this isn't perfect. No, nothing's perfect, but I feel like this probably isn't what we want to do. Let's set aside the technical parts, like dropping items in a 3D world always has a chance for the physics to bug out and for the item to disappear. I'm sorry, for it to like bounce up into the sky, you'll never see it again, or to just straight up fucking disappear. And it's like, didn't I have an item here? I don't know. Maybe it sunk to the floor. Maybe it despawned. I don't know. Maybe it's gone. Maybe you can't pick it up again. There's all types of different glitches and technical problems that you can have with this, depending on your engine and your physics engine. But that's once again beside the point. I think that this is a bit of a pain in the ass. Like if I drop something by accident, does that mean I have to pick it up? Yeah, doesn't sound too fun. Another example of this type of crafting would be voxel crafting, right? In Vintage Story, whenever you're smelting an item or using a station to create an item, you are technically messing with voxel. I have to explain this a little bit. So let's say we have this block, right? This block is made up of a bunch of tiny little cubes. Let's call these the voxels. Each one of these fucking voxels are manipulatable in Vintage Story. So in Minecraft, let's say you have a dirt block. In Vintage Story, you can split this dirt block up like this or like this. It's very granular. You have a lot of control in Vintage Story. It's very easy to make a real circle, a real like actual circle shape in Vintage Story because it's using like micro voxels. It's using the smallest unit and not just the massive unit. Lay of the Land is doing something similar, I think. They have actual voxels and it's not just like cubes like Minecraft. Cube Worlds, Valorant, they likewise are using actual voxels. You can see it on their characters. These are actual voxels rather than just cubes. And there's a particular art style that comes along with that. Vintage Story is mixing the two art styles of Minecraft and Cube World. And it looks a bit strange. It's about as strange as using 32X and 64. In Cube World, they had this weapon crafting system. In Cube World Alpha, they had a weapon crafting system where you could pick up items, and the items are literally voxels. The items are literally blocks that you pick up, and you can attach the block to your sword. So let's say you have a sword here. You just boop, stick it on. And you can craft like unique shapes like this, like keyblades and shit. And people were definitely making keyblades. You do it on the fucking handle as well. You can make unique weapons like this using voxels. In Vintage Story, you can only do this to the environment, but Cube World allow you to do this to the actual fucking weapon. I think Valorant said they were coming out with a system similar to this, but so far it just hasn't happened. The release version of Cube World has gotten rid of this feature, by the way, so you can't do this anymore. But this is a very unique way of crafting that I don't think we're going to see that often. In Vintage Story, the way that we use voxels there for crafting is like napping. So you physically pick out each and every voxel on this, and you knock it off to create a shape. In this case, it's this shape, the tetra shape. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to explore this. I haven't come down on a solid solution, but we should be moving away from menus, and we should be using the world. We should be using the fucking blocks, right? We should face the fucking wall. I think we can get there. And lastly, this is the last principle for innovating past Minecraft. It would probably be something like, well, it's not the last thing, I guess. Own the world. You remember how we were talking about you spend all this time building up this primary house and you never leave it. At most, you build out some fucking outposts because there's no incentive to actually create these outposts and make them into actual, like, real infrastructure that you use. The most infrastructure you're going to use is, like, these exploits, like ice boats across the nether, and, like, exploiting nether portals to teleport across land faster. There's no reason to build out the world. There's no reason to build roads and, like, have paths for your horses. There's no reason to have minecarts, right? What a useless mechanic in Minecraft, minecarts. There's no reason for it. And so we should incentivize it, right? 13 million blocks is a lot of fucking blocks. We have to have something that ties these worlds together. And the best thing I can think of is like some type of skill-based movement. Like Elytra, if you know, like everyone knows Elytra. Best movement system in the fucking game. It beats out every other choice, bar none, easily. Elytra is a skill-based movement system. You can crash and you can fucking die. I think this is the funniest stickman I've created so far. You can crash and you fucking... you just fucking die when you're flying. It requires a certain amount of control and understanding to use. But the worst part about Elytra is that it's like super fucking easy when you get some fireworks. So that I really want to emphasize like the skill-based locomotion. I've given up on minecarts. This entire thing of creating trains, it's doable. I think it's very boring. I don't think players are going to engage with that. But it can be made unboring. Like for example, let's say we didn't have fireworks. What if to navigate through the fucking world with an Elytra, to go fast, you had to create these like rings and you had to fly through the rings? I remember seeing a minigame like this. And when you get through the fucking ring, it boosts you. And these are rings that you build, just like you would build another portal. You would block by block build this structure, this ring of blocks. And it would incentivize the player to to actually explore out. And whatever they're exploring, they always make a little ring wherever they go, just in case they come back here later and want to fly. It would also like change the way that they craft in the world. Like if you have a fucking mountain here, how are you going to make a ring? Well, maybe you make a ring through it and you fly through the mountain. It creates a lot of very interesting scenarios for the players to engage with the world terrain and the world generation, and it still falls into this thing of using the fucking blocks. There is a mod for Minecraft called Illyrion, I think, where campfires will boost you whenever you fly over them. And so the incentive that you're building here rather than a ring is a campfire. And you have campfires, you have smoke signals, and like you have places where you recharge your elytra whenever you're flying. I really want to capitalize on this and really put it more into building because once again, this is one block. That's not good enough. Well, multi-blocks. Everything's a multi-block. Engage. Use the fucking blocks. Please use the blocks. Or maybe we have like some type of grappling hook, right? And so we have this like web slinging mechanic. Web slinging is very fun in Spider-Man, and there's a lot of nuance to it. Like when do you let go? When do you grab on? At what angle do you approach it? There's a lot of skill expression in using grappling hooks that can be capitalized upon here. And the infrastructure, once again, just like the fucking rings, you can build out infrastructure. Very interesting looking infrastructure too. Now, of course, players likely will just make a tower of blocks and just like web sling off of the blocks. But like even this is more than nothing. It's actually leaving a mark on the world. And now you can traverse the world even without a fucking map. Notice one of the most popular fucking mods for Minecraft is a mini map. Why do you need a mini map? Well, because no one is actually making landmarks anymore. But this is a landmark, isn't it? And you put a fucking torch on top. This is a landmark all of a sudden. We're suddenly pushing players into using the game systems and avoiding mods in the process. That's good. This is a good thing. For Hytale, they have the paraglider, right? Because Hytale was made when Breath of the Wild was still popular and still popping off. They have hang glider. So what if the infrastructure we're building here is also part of the power infrastructure, like windmills? And so whenever you blow past a windmill, it'll actually push you in the direction the windmill is facing. And maybe windmills have an exterior function that, once again, you can use to engage with the fucking game, like powering this contraption system wherever the fuck you have. And so now maybe this is like a location to manufacture something, manufacture a special block that requires a lot of labor normally, or do something autonomously, like dig down into the middle of the earth. Who knows? But once again, where we're trying to create incentives to build these things. Instead of just forcing the fucking player to do it, I want the player to want to do it. I want the player to think to themselves, I'm starting a new world. I don't have any of my old infrastructure. I should build my infrastructure. And once they have the infrastructure, they become more attached to the fucking world. So they're not going to want to create a brand new one. Remember, ultimately, we're trying to design for infinity here. And this is part of that player agency. It's also a type of progression because maybe there are tiers of windmill. Maybe there are tiers of boost rings using materials that you can't get otherwise, but you still need the prior materials. And the last thing I will bring up, the last principle I want to bring up is actually about those materials. Tool tiers are outdated. What do I mean by this? This is a flawed and archaic system, and I think the evidence for this speaks for itself when I bring up Tinker's Construct. I love Tinker's Construct. Tinker's Construct does a couple things. One, it incentivizes you keeping the exact same tool and just upgrading it over time. Two, it gives you a very large and wide choice of the type of materials you want to put into the tool. And there's a large list of their different effects that you can have. And it creates like a small mini game out of finding the right material for your perfect tool. And three, it allows for a type of attachment. And by attachment, I mean you'll grow to love your tool. Once upon a time, Tinker tools used to level up, not so much anymore. But in all of these games, for some reason, we have an item that is disposable. It can break, and sometimes it's expensive. It's expensive to create. And so players are incentivized to do things like mending in order to hold their tool together and to keep it for longer. And they'll use any exploit they can because inherently these tools that are expensive to make and easy to break and easy to lose, like if you die and you drop your fucking items, this is dangerous. It creates a very dangerous incentive for the player to do risk avoidance. And risk avoidance is bad because it reduces player agency. This is bad. This is a bad thing. I think more importantly than all of this, though, is that whenever you're breaking tools, and the reason we have tools breaking, though, is because we have to have a use for your 300 blocks of iron, right? You've grinded out for all these materials. You have to have some type of sink to put those materials into. And for most people, that's tools. But even then, I'm sorry. After somebody has 64 diamonds, have you ever used 64 diamonds on anything? Like maybe a fucking Maybe a beacon, right? Because that needs like a pyramid of certain blocks, but it's very extravagant. You can do the same thing with iron. Most people do. Most people don't use a full diamond beacon. It's just unnecessary. What do you need 64 diamonds for? And this is a different topic. I don't know if I want to get into this because it's a lot. How you deal with materials in a world that is infinite. How you deal with the infinite materials. How do you sink those materials? What do you sink them into? That's a discussion. I'm not sure I'm going to have. In my opinion, with these blocks, with these tens and tens of blocks, the short version is these things should help you build forwards. They should help you progress. I shouldn't even do the arrow like that. It should help you progress. Maybe like that, diagonal. I think that you shouldn't need a high tier pickaxe in order to mine hard materials. I think hard materials should inherently be in dangerous places, places that you're really risking your ass to get to. If you can get to them, then you should be rewarded with these high tier materials. But otherwise, they should be sufficiently difficult and sufficiently dangerous enough to where the player gets some bite back. Remember, agency is not just a one way thing, it's not just cheats. You need a bite back. You need something that tells the player to fuck off and play the game properly. This is that bite back. This is good. This is okay. So there's no reason for the player to rush for diamond if the tool by itself already does everything you need a tool of this caliber to do. An axe is an axe is an axe. You know what I mean? I would appreciate us thinking about these tools the way that we think about Dark Souls, I guess. Where you have one tool, you have one weapon that you invest all these fucking materials into. You have this one fucking sword. Everything goes into this sword. Every Titanite chunk, every special fucking enchantment, every oil or blessing, every enchantment, everything goes onto this one fucking sword, and you keep the sword for the entire fucking game. Even if you find new weapons later, like you find the double sword, or like the katana sword or something, you still keep using this sword. Like all these swords are unique. Some like Monster Hunter as well, right? Where you have all these fucking weapons, is an axe is an axe and axe. But you focus on one. You invest all your time and your energy perfecting and understanding and getting used to one. You invest into one, and that builds an attachment, and that keeps you playing for longer. And in an infinite world, an infinite game, you're inevitably going to want to stray to other tools. This should be an expensive thing to do. This should not be something you just easily pick up and go with. This should be something you have to train over time. Let's say we have a proficiency system like Skyrim had this thing where the more you did something, the better you got at it, right? So if you use bow and arrow, you get better at bow and arrow. But if you never use the fucking sword, you wouldn't get good at the sword. So the cost from switching to an archery build to a melee build is expensive. Just like switching to a magic build is expensive. It's not something that's simple to do, and this is part of the this is part of the bite back. This is part of the cost of player agency. You can choose whatever the fuck you want, but the systems are not going to let you do whatever the fuck you want. Okay, this isn't a cheat. You can't just switch over. So maybe there's a proficiency system like that. I don't know. But the game is infinite, so we have to have some type of something like this, I assume. Now, once again, I'm bringing up Cube World again. In Cube World, every voxel added to your weapon, every voxel you found in the world, but there's like fire voxels, and so this is a fire voxel over here, and now your weapon does a little bit of fire damage. So you're adding attributes to your sword or to your weapon or wherever the fuck the shape your stick is that you're swinging around, and it works as an enchantment. It works as a lot of things. It's very interesting, old Cube World. It's too bad they fucked it up. I know what's wrong with that guy. And remember, just like Tinkers, there's a type of mini game in going out and searching for the exact material you need. My throat hurts. It's a very long video. Yeah, it's a very long video. I think I've gotten my point across to you, right? The paradigm of Hytale and all these fucking games, besides Vintage Story. Vintage Story is obviously good. The paradigm behind all these fucking games is it's kind of stale. It's kind of boring. And to put your focus into making these mods and port and create, I think it kind of misses the forest for the trees here. There's so much more that can be done. There's so many different ways to think about and perceive block games and voxel games. I think like this is just scratching the surface. Like I've really talked about basically nothing here. At least I feel that way. Like once again, Vintage Story, it's not perfect. It struggles with combat, enemy design, the entire concept of a temporal storm where you just sit in place in your fucking house and wait for it to end so you can keep playing the game. That's annoying, right? Vintage Story isn't perfect. There's so many different ways we can push this, so many different things that you can create. I don't want anyone to feel locked down into the paradigm of Minecraft because Hytale doesn't necessarily have to be a Minecraft 2. They didn't want us to be a Minecraft 2. And you shouldn't want it to be a Minecraft 2 either. You should try to break away from that if you're making anything for this game, in my opinion. I'm not saying you have to bring create. it's a good idea, creates good, and it's a perfect port. Right? It's a perfect extension of this philosophy. But you don't have to do this. There's a lot of different ways to express this. There's a lot of different ways to build out Hytale, I think. Yeah. Okay. That's all. See ya.